When you graduated from college, did you feel like you had to have it all figured out and realize you didn't? Well, we're here to tell you that that's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out, and the value is in the journey.
Welcome to Unity Talks, where the hiring experts of Dallas-based recruiting firm Unity Search engage in lively discussion with successful business leaders to dissect their careers and how they got to where they are today, the obstacles overcome to reach their success, and steps they've taken to stay at the top of their respective fields. So listen in as we provide you with the thought-provoking conversation and ideas that keep industries moving forward.
And welcome back once again to another episode of the Unity Talks podcast. Today, my guest is Bryce Buckley, who is the controller at Blue Tide Environmental. Welcome to the show, Bryce.
Yeah, great to be here. I've caught a few of these episodes, so it's an honor to be on as a guest.
Love it. I love it. I hope more people are watching too. So keep sharing it.
Yes, most definitely.
So first, why don't you start out by giving us a little 2-minute commercial on Blue Tide Environmental, because every time I see that name and I say it, I feel like I should be on the coast or in Hawaii or surfing or something like that. It just didn't fit in Dallas.
Yeah, good. Our marketing firm did well there. No. Blue Tide Environmental is super exciting company to be part of. I thank my lucky stars every day. So Blue Tide Environmental is in the used motor oil recycling ecosystem. So think of, I'll take you through the ecosystem real quick.
Okay.
So, you've got cars, trucks, they're creating, used motor oil. They go and, they get their motor changed at Jiffy Lube or, your local oil change place. There's aggregators or collectors that pick up that used motor oil. And then we take that used motor oil, and through our recycling facility, we then break that down into, clean it up, break it down into base oils, and then we sell it back to large lubricant blenders, a lot of names on bottles that would be in your store shelf.
Okay.
And then that goes back into the cars, and it's this continuing cycle, and it reduces carbon emissions by something like 80%.
So we need more of this.
Absolutely.
So we need Blue Tide Environmental to grow bigger.
Absolutely.
Is what we need.
Yes.
Okay. And that's why you're there. You're there to help keep accounting and finance in check to make it grow bigger, because it's a smaller company, right? Like is it a startup or?
Yeah, we're a startup. We're private equity backed, so we're backed by Tailwater Capital, who, people might have differing opinions on private equity firms, but ours is great.
Yeah, Tailwater's local.
Tailwater's local. Yeah, exactly. We can meet with them face to face. Super collaborative, super supportive of what we're doing. So
okay.
Great partners there. And sky's the limit on used motor oil recycling. There's a whole lot of growth in this industry.
So is this kind of like an entrepreneurial type foray, we might say?
Yeah. It's really kind of cool, because you really wouldn't, I'm a controller, I'm in accounting. You wouldn't generally associate accounting with entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. But in this case, it really feels like it. Of course, my main job is accounting and finance, but, I'm getting to sit on all sorts of meetings, whether it's, executive level or board meetings or, marketing meetings or commercial meetings or all sorts of things. It's a small company. When I joined, I think I was body number 9 or 10. I think we're at 25-ish right now, and that number will keep increasing over the next year.
So, and you've been there for almost a year.
Almost a year.
So from 9 or 10 to 25 in about 10 months or so.
Yes.
That's pretty quick.
And
that's great.
It will double in the next year.
Yeah.
So
congrats to all the success you guys are having.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So our theme today is going to be, you don't have to have it all figured out, and the value is in the journey.
Absolutely.
And we're really trying to balance like ambition and patience. Mm-hmm. And I feel like your career sets up well to talk about this theme, which is why, we decided this is the theme we're going to cover today for people who are sitting there graduating school and they're thinking, well, now what am I supposed to do? I should have my whole career figured out. And you don't.
No.
You didn't.
No.
I didn't either. And it's okay. But before we jump there, I always try to give our audience kind of a backdrop of who our guest is, just so they can familiarize themselves. And you're looking at Bryce Buckley, who is a West Texas and South Texas super small town guy. Now, not the smallest.
Not the
because
smallest.
Marcus King, who is a tax manager at Texas Instruments, who is with us, was from the smallest town in Kansas. So you are the second smallest. So tell us a little bit about growing up.
Yeah, so my hometown is Freer, Texas. So population 2,500, and Freer is about 2 hours south of San Antonio. No one's heard of it, and even people from San Antonio have never heard of it.
I've not.
So my dad worked for Conoco, and then Conoco Phillips, and that's what took us to Freer, because he was in operations, and there's an operating area very close to Freer. So small town life, very blue collar, keep life simple, and lots of dreams of one day being in a big city.
Big city, and here we are today.
Yes.
So we did have it all figured out. You went from the small. No, I'm kidding. We didn't have it all.
That.
Yeah, but I will tell you. Here's what I learned about Bryce. So this is an interesting side note. Okay, and I hope Bryce is okay with me sharing this.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I'm from Texas, born and raised. We went to school that was governed by UIL rules. There were UIL academic competitions.
Yes.
Bryce is like a champ at these competitions. He entered and was, I guess you were in the calculator and the accounting competitions. In your junior year of high school, you made the finals to state and calculator. And then your senior year, you went to finals and state for accounting.
For accounting, yes.
And you weren't using a TI-84. All you old people, you know what I'm talking about. The TI-84, that's what we used.
Yeah, if memory serves, I think I used an HP 32S2, something like that. And for all the listeners, viewers out there, I realize how nerdy this sounds, and I'm completely okay with it. I'm actually surprised, because in my hometown, it was like UIL academics was like, you played sports, you could play sports, but you could also do these academic competitions. So it was something I was good at, and even at the time, like, I realized what going to state and calculator sounds like. It's pretty. It's got some inherent humor in there.
I love it. I think it's great. It's a great story. Plus, not that we need to go into it, but in these small West Texas towns, one of the big events was a rattlesnake roundup.
Yes.
I went to Sweetwater's rattlesnake roundup, which is huge, and of course, Freer, Texas had a rattlesnake roundup. So if you ever want to go to a rattlesnake roundup, go to a small West Texas town. You'll be able to go to one. But anyways, let's move on here. So you went to the 5-year program at A&M, got a degree in accounting. Was accounting a little bit in your thought, this is my escape from a small town into a bigger city? I've got to get this degree, and A&M and accounting is kind of my way out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think being, even though I grew up in a small town, I don't think it was, I think with the values I grew up with, and maybe the goals I had, and I made a joke to you that, watching Seinfeld and Friends, or watching movies that were set in New York or San Francisco, it was like, wow, yeah, I want to do that one day. So going to A&M, which for some is a step down as far as going from a big city to College Station, but for me that was a step up.
Huge.
Freer to College Station was big upward move there. So yeah, definitely always kind of dreamed of having getting to be in the city and working for a big company and being big and important one day.
Yeah. Well, you graduated from A&M, and here's what's so interesting. I'm going to go quickly through your background here, because we do want to get to the value being in the journey, and part of your background demonstrates that. You graduate and you go back home. Right? You thought you were escaping the small town. It sucked you right back in, because you were going to rebel and be a farmer, and you're wearing graduation cap and gown, and then you're wearing jeans and Wranglers and boots and working a farm. In
a matter of 3 or 4 days, I think. I think I got a long weekend, and I was reporting for farm duty.
Yeah. Well, so you do that, and I think you came because you didn't really know what you wanted to do, right? Yeah. So this is the start. You don't really know what you want to do. You don't have to have it all figured out when you graduate college.
Yep.
farming is not what you went to school for. You went for an accounting degree.
Yep.
And you realized about a year in, after seeing the potential future spouses, limited selection.
Very limited selection. Yeah. I make a joke that the best looking woman within 25 miles was my grandmother. So that was that kind of shows you how limited my social circle was on the farm.
Well, and we don't want to do that. So what's so fascinating what you did is you were recruited out at A&M by Halliburton.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you proactively called that recruiter up. You had the guts to just proactively call them up and say, hey, look, what I decided to do ain't working. I want to come work for you guys. And they hired you.
They did. They did. I was actually just, while I was thinking about this conversation, I looked up the email where I reached
still have
out.
it.
Yeah, still have it.
Is it framed?
It should be.
It should be. Yeah. I think it's cool that you just reached out to him proactively, because a lot of people wouldn't have done that. They would have just started over in the application process. And so I really think that kudos to you for doing that. But here's where it takes off, right? So you're at Halliburton and you're put into an SEC reporting department, which, for the listeners, it's very rare that you have SEC reporting experience if you're not coming from a Big Four, Big Six, some other big audit firm, right? So you're doing that. You're in investor relations. You're splitting time in there. You're in global operations. And as you advance your career, you get more technical accounting. You have operations accounting. You've got financial analysis, more investor relations. So you've really just got this mishmash of very disparate accounting functions in your background, as opposed to a traditional, I began in audit, I left and went into a reporting function, and then maybe I became a controller, or maybe I stayed in reporting.
Yep.
And yours was just all over the place, which lends people to think, and Bryce has no clue what he's doing.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
What are you thinking through this time?
I think it's sometimes some people, including myself, kind of have to learn things themselves. It was always one of those where, my the foundation of my career has always been the SEC reporting side, technical accounting, and that's the foundation, and that's really, it appeals to me because it's, academic, incorporates a big skill set, in my opinion. Like, you not only have to know accounting, but you have to be able to write well, you have to be able to communicate well, and so maybe that's really maybe the tie that binds here. It's like, I feel like I've got the accounting side of my brain, but then I've also got this little bit of creative side, and so a lot of these jobs were a way for me to figure out how to use that skill set. And so I learned things in the ops roles. I learned things. Investor relations was a whole new area for me. And then again, kind of the tie that binds is that financial reporting, technical accounting skill set as well.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we've talked about is you had such a broad background, almost looking like it was directionless. And maybe at times it really was directionless. I remember being 25 and 30 and 35 years old. Heck, I'm, in my mid 40s and I still feel directionless at times.
Sure.
But that's okay. Because what you've been able to do is you've been able to piecemeal this really well-crafted career at the end of the day into a position. If you heard the beginning of the show, you can tell Bryce loves what he does. This show could be packed full of 30 minutes of just talking about Blue Tide Environmental and everything that you're gaining. One of the things you've mentioned, which I want to pause on here, to me is you said, every job that I'm looking for, I have a skill set that I've developed, and I'm making sure that I can add to that skill set. So tell us about how you look at that next job, or even the current job that you're in the moment.
Yeah. So I always say a good job is one where you can take your existing skill set and apply it immediately, but then you're also learning and developing and challenging yourself. So when you said, directionless, perhaps on the surface, but to me, I was learning in every role. and I was taking that existing skill set and I was tacking on a new skill and tacking on a new skill and tacking on a new skill. So to me, and again, you fast forward 20 years or 18, 20 years, and now my skill set's like this.
Huge. Yeah.
So yeah, and really during the time, I was probably impatient with myself. I was like, you should be making this much money. You should be having this title. Oh, I just saw a friend just got this promotion. Like, you can look at that and you can let ego get in the way and you can let that occupy your thoughts. But I love to communicate to the audience and say, you got to push that stuff aside. You got to remember you're on your own journey. You're going to figure it out. Just be patient with yourself and give yourself a little time.
So good. So good. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes. Compare yourself to yourself a year ago. Don't compare yourself to your friend or the guy that sits down the hall.
Well, and that is hard to do, and it's hard to do for you and I.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
it's also going to be harder to do for our younger generation.
Yes.
Because they were born with the phone in their hand. I
Yes.
didn't get a phone until I was like 24 years old, and then I got a
Yes.
phone. And it couldn't do much. It could call.
Yes.
That's it. And we wouldn't text because it took forever because you had to hit the
Right.
button 3 times to get the letter you wanted.
Sometimes I debate going back to one of those
Yeah.
phones.
All right. Amen. Yes. Now they're born with the phone in their hand, and they're born with social media, and you have the ability to see and you're seeing their best life
Absolutely.
most of the time.
Absolutely.
There are some people who keep it real, but let's be real. 95% of the people out there, you're seeing their best life, right? And
Sure.
And so I can see how that is a struggle to not look at someone else. I mean, you just said it. They're making more than me.
Mm-hmm.
They have a bigger title than
Yeah.
I. So how did you work through that in your mind? What was your self-talk?
I think it's, again, let me come back to your question, but 20 years in, it's easier to be confident, right? Like, it's easier, I'm at a place in my life personally and professionally that I'm really happy with. But yeah, go back to 25-year-old me, and there's a lot more insecurity there. There's a lot more not knowing yourself, not being confident with yourself. And so really that self-talk, maybe I didn't always do it back then, but I can say what I should have done back then. It's just putting your ego aside. Your ego is just this mental construction of how you define yourself. It's not real, and it's very prone to being you can pop that balloon real easily. So try your best to have confidence in what you're doing. Have confidence in your own intelligence. Have confidence to know that I come in and put an honest day's work in, every single day, each day that's going to add up to a career. So don't get hung up if 1 year you didn't get that promotion, or 1 year you didn't get that you think you should be making this much by this age. You just have to kind of push that aside. And it's so hard, again, like you said, with the phones these days. And I don't want to sound like a hey boomer or anything like that, but it really is. You have this device where you're able to compare yourself to others. So to me, I try to, if I'm reading something on the phone and it's making me mad or perhaps jealous or insecure, I think about it 2 ways. One, is this me? It's probably my problem most of the time. Do I need to change the way I'm thinking? Secondly, should I even be subjecting myself to this? So, sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. But again, that's the way. You gotta keep it positive.
Yeah. In James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he says it's the aggregation of marginal gains, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the 1% better every single day. To what you said earlier, are you better than who you were a year ago at this point in time? And look how much you've progressed.
And then you can take that confidence, and if you have I mean, it's the same thing. We all know the thing. If you've managed enough big projects at work, you can't think about this project. You've got to think about the little tasks that get you to the bigger objective.
Yeah. That's process over outcome, right?
Absolutely.
Focus on the process. Don't worry about the outcome. If you work the process and you do it well and you dedicate yourself to it day in, day out, the outcome will be there.
Yes.
The outcome, you can make the little corrections along the way, and the outcome is going to be gold if you focus on that process.
And you know what? We don't like to think it, but sometimes there's failure at the end of that journey, and sometimes, honestly, that failure is part of your journey. You don't like it. You don't. It's not pleasant. It's stressful, but sometimes it is part of that journey to get to where you're going.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let's talk about you interviewing someone now, right? Because you've gone through this journey in your career where you had a bunch of different systems. You moved to Portland, you came back here, you have a bunch of different jobs that you've held within organizations. Now you're a controller at Blue Tide, and you're looking at someone across the table. How do you go about trying to see their journey? What kind of questions are you asking them?
Yep.
And what are the answers you're looking for?
Yeah. So one of the questions, one of my favorite questions, I don't ask a lot of kooky interview questions, but one of the ones I like to ask is, if you could go back, you can go in your time machine, go back 10 years, and you're going to get to see yourself 10 years ago. What's the bit of advice that you now would give yourself, 10 years ago? And again, it's like that question's just trying to get at, like, is this person self-reflective? Are they, do they have that learning mindset? Like, of course, if anyone who's self-reflective, knows that they didn't know it all at that time. So that's one of my favorite questions to ask.
Yeah. How would you answer it for yourself if you were asked that?
Oh gosh, yeah. I would say, again, kind of this theme of what we've been talking about is balancing patience with ambition. Like, any high achiever, someone that's goal oriented or wants to like have this career, you're gonna have ambition, and that fuels you, and that's a good thing. Like, high achievers are driven by ambition, but you can't be 100% ambition. You gotta balance that with patience and know, like, yeah, I'm a high achiever. I work hard, but sometimes it doesn't always come exactly when you want it to, and you've got to just wait for those opportunities where your skills and what you're building meet an opportunity. And yeah, that's again just waiting for your skills to meet that opportunity, and it will come.
It absolutely will come as long as you keep plugging away, and you don't have to take that very next job that comes up.
Absolutely.
Right? You can sit back and wait for the right one for you to craft the career, whether it's been that perfectly lined career or one where you've just accumulated a bunch of different skill sets. Because now when I talk to you, you're like, man, 25% of my job is doing insurance now. Even though I'm an accountant, I still do that, but I'm still doing insurance, which is great because you're getting to apply. You had this entrepreneurial fling with, I want to be a farmer. I don't want to be a farmer.
Sure.
Now you're back to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, coming back, almost full circle from where we began the conversation, back to Blue Tide. Like, talk about something like when you're in the right job, gosh, you know it. Especially with 15, 20 years of experience. Like, I know what a good job is, and I know what a bad job is, and this is a good job.
Yeah.
And not only from a selfish standpoint or just a me standpoint, like, sure, like, I'm continuing to build my career, and I really like what I'm doing, but also just from a team and organization standpoint, our executives are really good, really experienced, and whenever you go into a startup role, there's always a little risk, right? Startups, might not succeed, but if you're gonna, in my particular instance, like, Sure, there's risk with a startup, but I know I'm going into this venture with a very experienced, very skilled team, and that just gives me the confidence that that I'm in the right place in my career.
Yep. So an employee of yours at Blue Tide comes up to you, been working with you since you've been there, and says, "I don't know if I'm in the right spot. I don't know where to take my career." Yes. You're a great person to go talk to because you've been there. How do you walk him through or her through a decision tree? How do you give them constructive advice they can utilize?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of it is just I try to be a good listener. I want to hear what their goals are. I want to hear maybe what they're feeling. I mean, even if it's not, you can tell me if you're dissatisfied or impatient or you think you're not getting enough. And odds are I've had enough experience where I can empathize with almost everything someone brings to me. So again, I always want to figure out like what's driving them, what's their motivation, what's their goal. Take that. I know what my goals are, and I know what the company's goals are. Most of the time, there's some overlapping on those circles. So again, I want to figure out. Again, I'm maybe veering off topic a little bit, but again, understanding their goals, understanding their objectives, and we can talk about what their options are.
In your career, did you ever approach your leader of an organization or any leader? It didn't have to be yours. It could be any leader in an organization or a mentor outside of the company that said, I don't know if I'm on the right path. I see my friends getting promoted quicker than me. What do I do? And what kind of advice were you given?
Yeah, I remember one time, I mean, I've had various mentors, both for companies that I've worked for as well as people that I've maintained relationships with. And I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I got that I still remember is, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like, again, it was kind of, I was probably maybe late 20s at the time. And she told me, like, it sounds like you've got the facts straight and you're thinking about, all these different factors in making a job change. There's a chance it might not work out, but that's okay. If you end up taking that role and it doesn't work out, it's not irreversible. It's not the end of the world. So try to make the best decision you can, and then accept what comes your way, and then make that next decision. So again, I always remember that, just because, again, as a young person, you just think every decision is so life-changing.
I was just, Brett, I was just reading this little clip about an astronaut, and the astronaut is, thousands of miles away from Earth, and you just see a little blue marble. And he was calm as can be, but the mind of that astronaut was saying, I am so frustrated because when I look at that marble, I see that we're all one people. That's it. Yes. Like we are not that important, and we may live in different countries and on different continents, and we need to figure out a way to make this work. Yes. We need to quit overinflating our own importance. And he said in the afterwards, he said, I just wanted to take these political leaders from all across the world and get them into, a space shuttle and take them up there and go, this is what you're screwing up right now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You're not that important. At the end of the day, you're not that big of a deal. It's okay, to what you were just saying.
Yeah, no, again, that kind of goes back to that, how much am I driven by my own ego? So if I can strip that ego away and think, I'm talking to you. You and I are one, and we're one with everyone else. Like, so that makes me, I want to treat you like I treat myself. And again, I completely agree with you. It's remember that it's not all me. Think about the collective sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you said something. I think what I'm hearing the most about you, if I were to summarize a lot of what you just said, particularly from that mentor, because that mentor said, don't back off on the pressure you're putting yourself under. When we're 18 years old, when we're 23 years old and we're graduating from college, we don't have to have it all figured out. In fact, statistics say that most people are going to be changing jobs 12 times in their lifetime. And now they're starting to say, not only are you going to start changing jobs, you're going to change careers. Okay? So you're going to get out of whatever this job is and you're going to completely flip careers and go do something else. And that's like hitting a reset button. I mean, you're almost starting over, and that's okay. And you see people do that all the time. And their life turns out okay when they only work on controlling what they can control. And that's what I'm hearing you say a lot is control what you can control and be okay with the consequences that come out of it. And make the best of those. You take those into your next opportunity. And you're still going to pull from those for the rest of your career. Just like today in a controller role at Blue Tide, you're probably pulling from and remembering things that happen not only at Halliburton, your first corporate job, but maybe even just work ethic from having to work on a farm when you thought you wanted to be an entrepreneur and a farmer.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's all a collection of experiences, a collection of skills, and absolutely. I think about growing up in a small town all the time, and at the time it felt very, it was not exciting growing up in a small town, but 20 years removed from that, it's like, that's a lot of who I am. I still try to approach, even though, perhaps one would say I, work in a very white collar job, I still like to have a blue collar mindset, still want to put in an honest day's work, still not want to, again, not let my ego get out of control. It's about, and again, it's kind of what you said, control what you can control. Like I can't control my past. And in a large part, the future is unknown. So what can I do today to be who I want to be and to be a good person to others?
Yeah, if I apply that as we wrap up to people who are climbers and they're working up in their career, I apply the thought of even if you don't have it all figured out right now, take advantage of the present that you're in and really work hard today. And use your voice. Speak up to your manager if you want additional experience. Communicate with people. Don't, in my generation, I sat back and I kept my mouth shut and I just put my head down. And now I think the value of what I've learned from a younger generation is, speak up. And that's okay, because people that you're performing highly for, they want to help you in your career. And that's what I hear for our younger, control what you can control. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Don't worry about comparing with other people, because that's going to steal your joy. What would you say for other leaders? Advice that you might give them?
Yeah. Again, just, I think you're hitting on something there with people coming to you with questions or perhaps complaints or expressing their feelings. I always think someone who's complaining about or voicing concerns about not having enough to do, I love that as a leader. Like that is so great. So you want more responsibility, you want to do more work, you want to take more on, like that's great. I can hear that. That's your, giving constructive criticism to me that I need to, delegate more to you, and I'm all ears. So maybe my advice to other managers is just listen to what your people are saying, try to empathize as much as possible, and just try to make good decisions.
You nailed it when you said all ears. That's where, when I'm listening to you, I'm sitting here, that just means be all ears. And in order to be all ears, you have to let your staff know you are. So you have to take a self-inventory or a self-assessment to say, does my team know that I'm open to hearing from them, right? Yep. And are they okay with being vulnerable with me so that I can help them in their career? And they can do great things for my company. And maybe go on to do great things for other companies. Yeah. So that's it. Just absolutely empathetic listening.
And then maybe if I could just add one other thing, it's like I always when when I interview somebody and talk to them, they're selling themselves to me in an interview process, but I'm also selling myself to them. And that my promise I want to make to every employee is that when you come work for me, I'd love for you to, in this situation, work for Blue Tide, the rest of your career. But what I promise you is that if you work for me, I'm going to make you a better accountant, and you're going to make yourself a better accountant. Like, this is going to be a mutually beneficial relationship. And whether you take those skills and go to the next job or stay at Blue Tide, you're gonna have a more marketable skill set at the end of the day. So.
Love it. Leave the job better than what it was when you got it.
Absolutely.
Bryce Buckley, man, thank you so much
Yes.
for the time today.
Thank
and
you.
to our listeners, I hope you've gained as much value out of that. Remember, it is not about the destination. It is about the journey, the values in the journey. Keep that in mind as you look at your career. And we'll talk to you later.
If you're looking for the next step in your career or the missing piece for your team, Unity Search has you covered. Whether it's finance and accounting, tax services, information technology, or human resources, Unity Search is here for you with experienced and dedicated hiring professionals. Reach out today and take the next step. Unity Search, placing you first.